So, I promised in my previous video that I'll talk to you about a couple of things that we could do to protect ourselves in Cybersecurity Awareness Month and going forward. So, let's jump right into it. I warn you, this is going to be about 5 to 6 minutes long. So, as you know, every single device that you utilize right now utilizes things like passwords. Do you have passwords activated on your device? One. Second question, if you do have passwords activated on that device, are they secure passwords? Are they things other than God or love or money or parent's name or spouse name or children's name or pet's name? Those are very simple passwords. How can you make your password more secure? You can switch letters for numbers or for alphanumeric characters. Hash sign, pound sign, percentage, all these things can be incorporated into most passwords and they will be accepted. You want to go one step further? Hackers like to utilize something called brute force attacks, which essentially is a program that's running so many revolutions per minute to try to actually figure out what your password is. You want to make sure that a brute force attack can't get you. Put a space in between some of your characters. Yep, you heard me. Just a space. That'll solve that problem. Now, that whole premise of passwords applies across the board, whether you're utilizing desktop, laptop, tablet, mobile phone. Put your passwords in, right? But before you even look at passwords, here's something very simple. When you walk away from your device so you don't carry it with you, do you lock it? You can lock your desktop, you can lock your laptop, you can lock your screen. Now, granted, the default timeout for some of these things is only like, a minute but some of us, more often, most of us adjust it to 5 minutes to actually give us some time, when you're pondering something. So, make sure you lock it. That's gonna cost you absolutely nothing to get done, and it'll save you no end of grief. Same thing with your password. Right. Another thing that you've seen happening now with a lot of providers is something called two-factor authentication. What is two-factor authentication? It is the ability to have more than one, as this name very simply says, two factors of authentication. So you have your password, which is factor number one. Factor number two is some form of independent communication between the provider and yourself at the drop of a hat. So, for instance, in most cases, you would get a text message. So you would have had to have set up an authorized cell phone to be able to receive that, so it can verify it's you. Or you would have to have set up a second email address to have had that available. What this is doing, or what the attempt with this is to allow for immediate, at the point in time, authentication that the person attempting to log in is in fact the authorized person. So if it is, you have that ability available to you with regards to any form of thing. So it's available with your shopping, for instance, Amazon and most of these online shopping companies. It's available with your banking. Most banking does that as well. Hell, it's even available sometimes with just your regular email. So if you have it available to you, activate it, utilize it. That's another way to protect yourself. Something else you can think of. Now, why am I making all of these things so important? Factor this in. Your presence on the World Wide Web. It is your personal ID. It's who you are on the World Wide Web. You want to ensure that this is not compromised or corrupted or used for nefarious purposes. So, Why? Let me put this into another way. I'm in my car right now. I don't want anybody touching my car. Plain and simple. You could imagine the kind of chaos if any random person gets access to your vehicle, goes and commits a crime, or ends up in an accident and may cause a fatality. When the check is done, it comes back to you. You didn't report it, you're held liable. More often than not, though, when it comes to from the digital side of things, you wouldn't even know that your personal space or your personal ID was used for nefarious purposes. So again, protect yourself and think of it and put the same impetus and importance on your digital ID as you would your actual personal physical belongings. Right? So, next thing, we've spoken about device security. We've spoken about one major habit. Here's something else you need to take into account as well. And it's something we are all guilty of doing. Actual wireless security. Every device we have, every portable device we have, has Wi-Fi, obviously, has Bluetooth. How many of us leave our Bluetooth on just because? Now, here's why you should leave it off if you're not using it. 2 reasons. 1, save your battery life. 2, Bluetooth is probably one of the least secure wireless protocols available on most devices right now. If you check it out, the ways to sync between your mobile phone and your devices is very, very simple. So if you leave that on, you leave it open, hackers love to get access via Bluetooth. So if you're not using it, switch it off. Take my advice on this. And as we're on the topic of wireless security, your home Wi-Fi. Okay, so you have oftentimes shared your Wi-Fi password at home with whoever comes to visit, your family, whatever. That's great. You're being a good friend or whatever. Consider this. Your home Wi-Fi password falls into the wrong hands. Hear me out. Suppose the person who you've given access to doesn't observe the same security standards that you do. Somebody gets their hand on their device. They get access to your home wireless password. You haven't changed your home wireless password for a while. Should this person have any knowledge of where you are, what you do, they can easily come park up outside of your house, knowing your wireless password, gain access to your network and or devices depending on what you have there, and pull any of your confidential information that you may have stored on your devices. Your banking information, your personal files, all that stuff, simply because you may have given out your wireless password indiscriminately. Now, how do you fix that? Most devices have the ability to have both what's called multiple SSIDs. An SSID is the name you see when it is you're searching for a wireless network. That's the wireless network's name. So, when you have the ability to have multiple SSIDs, you can therefore enable your home trusted network and your guest network. Your guest network will have, of course, access to the internet. That's what most people want anyhow. But you are limiting them from being able to see and or sniff out the rest of your network. So they are sitting down in their own isolated bubble on your network. Of course, 2 things. 1, make sure your passwords are actually very reliable for that as well. Refer back to what I was talking to you earlier about passwords. And 2, make sure your device is strong enough as well. Most traditional home routers are now trying to get to that level. Me personally, I've upgraded to a professional business enterprise type wireless access point. Why? Because A, it can do that whole thing about multiple SSIDs. B, coverage, it's giving me better wireless coverage than a traditional home router. And C, most importantly for me, it's secure. It's very secure. I can get reports, I can see a lot of what's going on, attempts to access my wireless network, all of these things. I'll talk about the brand probably later on in another video, but these are things you can look at doing going forward to protect yourself. In most of those examples I just mentioned there, you've spent to get it done. So think about that, ponder on that for the next 24 hours or so, and let's see if you have any questions, you have any comments, drop me a line, no problem, let's talk. That's it for today. Talk to you soon. Take care. Bye bye.